The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL NewsRadio.
We spoke yesterday about the fact that the U.S. House of Representatives had finally gotten to vote on the Epstein bill. That vote was all but one member voted to pass it on and to release the files. That went to the Senate. They're also on board unanimously. It's now gone to the president for his signature. And Holly, this is a huge turn of events from where we were just a week ago.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they were trying to get 218 votes in the House, waiting for a single House representative, I think from Texas, to be sworn in. Arizona, right?
Yep,
to be sworn in.
Yep.
So that they could get that, just to get the vote.
That's right. To force the vote. It was a discharge petition to be able to force the vote, right? So this was run by Thomas Massie. He was one of the original sponsors, and he's a Republican, and they only had 4 Republicans who signed on to the discharge petition. It was Representative Massie and 3 Republican women, including Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace, which they have been very large President Trump supporters. Marjorie Taylor Greene is now on the outs. President Trump is basically calling her a loser and doing what he does when people don't fall in line all the time. But what's interesting to me is, as you pointed out, they were trying to get these Republican women to take their names off this discharge petition, so they didn't have enough names to force this vote. And now all of a sudden, everybody in the entire Congress has voted for it except for one lone person from Louisiana.
Yeah, and this is certainly not what, at least a few days ago, President Trump wanted.
This was a colossal defeat for Donald Trump. He tried mightily to stop the vote, and it passed with only a single member of Congress voting against it. A defeat of this scale has just never happened to Donald Trump before, and frankly, he seems rattled by it.
That was ABC News Chief Washington Correspondent Jonathan Karl. Maybe overstating it a little bit, because Trump did come around a little toward the end and say,
well, I think when it becomes obvious, right? So Thomas Massie said he felt like he had at least 100 Republicans who were going to vote for it once it hit the floor. And it was after that point that President Trump said, fine, just go ahead and release them.
Yeah, and so now it's on Trump's desk. When asked if he thought President Trump would veto the bill, House Speaker Johnson said he didn't know.
I'm deeply disappointed in this outcome. I think I've been at the state dinner. I don't know. I was just told that Chuck Schumer rushed it to the floor and put it out there preemptively. It needed amendments. I just spoke to the president about that. We'll see what happens.
It's awkward that he's complaining about it at this point, because the House pushed it through. I'm deeply disappointed in the outcome. He's not the dissenting vote.
No, but again, so he had continued to state, Speaker Mike Johnson, that the Senate needed to amend it, that they needed to improve it, they needed to do some things, but that's not what happened.
No, the Senate just took it, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer spoke on the floor of the Senate after the Senate formally received the bill.
The job is not done. The vote is not the end, it's only the beginning. Once the president signs the bill, he must apply and execute it faithfully. There must be no funny business from Donald Trump.
So what happened with unanimous consent, and that is a process.
That's what happened in the Senate.
In the Senate,
right?
And that is a process where instead of everybody votes individually, they ask for unanimous consent, and that's the basically speak now or forever hold your peace moment. And nobody said no. And so they took that as a unanimous vote. No ability to change it, no ability to offer an amendment or talk about it. And that was what Speaker Mike Johnson was unhappy about.
So he was unhappy, and maybe you can help me with this, that the Senate didn't wrestle with it, didn't make some amendments, didn't do some things. He thought it was going to be tied up for a little while.
Yeah,
because
that's part of
his House sent it through.
They did. And again, this is all political maneuverings in some way, but Speaker Mike Johnson was vehemently opposed to actually bringing this to the floor, right? And he basically had his hand forced by this discharge petition.
Right.
It literally forces a vote. So if the vote had been really close, for example, then you could be looking at the president could veto it, and without a veto-proof majority, then the bill would be dead. but this is a veto-proof majority, no question.
Okay, so sitting on Trump's desk, what happens after he signs it? ABC News chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl says there may be delays and redactions in what the Department of Justice actually releases to the public.
The bill says that the files must be publicly released within 30 days of the president signing it into law. But this doesn't mean that we're going to see everything in 30 days. The Department of Justice is going to control this process, and they have at least two ways to obstruct the release of all the files. They can cite an ongoing investigation, and remember, Donald Trump has ordered an investigation into Democrats associated with Epstein. And the Justice Department can heavily redact the materials in the name of protecting the victims.
So we talked about that yesterday. They can say, the Department of Justice can claim, accurately, I guess, that there's an ongoing investigation. And anytime you have public records in respect to an active investigation, the investigating agency can say, hey, we don't want to release these yet because there's an investigation going on. Trump has called for an investigation into Democrats and their involvement
That's
with
right.
Epstein.
Just over the weekend, he asked for that.
So it's a complete shift in terms of the focus of this. Let's look at the Democrats as well. Will the Department of Justice say, look, we now have a mission, an order from the president himself saying we need to investigate Democrats. Why could we release something that to the public while we're doing a internal investigation?
Can I talk to you about the 5 people who didn't vote? There were 5 representatives who did not vote on this bill, 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans. So 2 of the Democrats missed the vote because of health reasons, but said they would have voted for it. That is Don Beyer of Virginia and Steve Womack of Arkansas. And then Greg, it looks like Caesar of Texas, also a Democrat. But, Steve Womack is a Republican, sorry. Michael Rulli of Ohio, Republican, and Mickey Sherrill of New Jersey, Democrat. They didn't give reasons why they didn't vote. But for some reason, there were 5 people who didn't vote. There was only 1 no vote.
Okay, so, yeah, that changes things a little bit. So 5 people didn't vote at all. And 400 some odd voted in favor.
It was 427.
1 voted against.
To 1.
And then the Senate just
unanimous
by acclamation,
yeah,
so to speak.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Mike Johnson did share his concerns about the bill before yesterday's vote. I wanted to just play one other thing from him.
It fails to fully protect victim privacy. It could create new categories of victims. It potentially jeopardizes grand jury secrecy. It fails to prohibit release of child sexual abuse materials that are not appropriately defined in the legislation. It jeopardizes future federal investigations, and we have national security concerns regarding classified information.
I don't know if I buy into a lot of that, but victim privacy is paramount, and it's something that I'm involved in. But the victims have almost
there are a number
privacy.
of victims who have come forward publicly to talk about releasing these files. Also, I think it's clear victim names will be redacted, but that's if you look at the actual language, you will redact appropriate stuff, but you don't have to redact like pages and pages and pages, which I think some people were trying to do.
You redact personal information.
Personal identifying information,
right.
For example. Yeah.